Hey everybody, good morning, Monday morning. Let's see, what time is it? 6:59, somewhere between 6:59 and 7. I'll wait till my phone officially turns over before we get ready to go. Maybe you're already warmed up. Maybe you're just starting to get warmed up. Either way, it's good. Oh, let me turn on the fan, then we'll get started. All right. Officially ready. So let's officially start. Here we go. So today's workout is as much coaching as it is a workout. It's still going to be a workout. So what I want to work on today is, take the music out. I want to work on the relationship between your gear choice and how that affects your cadence. Your speed is determined really by your cadence and your gearing, which is actually the same relationship to both running and swimming. Running, your speed is determined by your stride length and your cadence, which is your turnover. And in swimming, it's the same way. It's the equivalent of your bike gearing in swimming would be your distance per stroke, which distance per stroke very much aligns with stride length, and then your arm turnover. So for swimming, biking, and running, your speed, turn on my hobby trainer, is determined by those two variables, your distance and your turnover. Okay. So in today's episode of cycling, we're going to work on the relationship between your gearing, which affects how far each wheel travels. So the gearing in a smaller, easier gear to turn is why you turn the pedals over more. Your tire makes, let's just say, like half a revolution or one revolution on your back wheel. And on the harder gears, it's like a 4-to-1 ratio. So every time you turn the pedal over, it turns the wheel over 4 times. So you go 4 times down the road. In a very easy gear, maybe it's 1-to-1, where when you turn the pedals over once, the rear wheel goes around 1 time. So that's how gearing works, and that's how it affects the distance that you travel with each turn of the pedals. Okay, so it's the two things. It's the turnover, the cadence, and what gear you choose. And then those two things also will impact your intensity, which is going to be measured your heart rate, your perceived exertion. If you have a power meter, that'll show up in terms of your power. And then, your speed, of course, is a direct connection to those two. So we can use this. You can also use, if you're new to cycling, and most people have a hard time with their cadence is generally too low, their turnover is too slow, and they tend to ride in the small chainring. Amanda, hey Patricia, have you been on here before, Patricia, live? Maybe you have. Good to see you. So mostly people's cadence is too low, and then part of that might be not knowing what your cadence is. And then the other big thing I see is people not getting into the big chainring. And like right now, because we're warming up, everybody should be in the small chainring. So if you look at the front of your bike, if you look down, there's a big chainring which sits to the outside, a smaller chainring which sits to the inside. There are bikes being made now that just have one chainring in the front, so there's no shifter on your left side. So that's a different story, that most people have bikes with multiple chainrings. So if you want to go faster, if you want to become a faster cyclist, you need to get into the big chain ring. I have to calibrate my pump chain. Okay. So you have to get into that big chain ring. But there are multiple gears even when you're in the big chain ring. So that's what we're going to work on today, is figuring out, both in the small chain ring and in the big chain ring, how those gears impact, like I said, all of those dynamics around cycling: your speed, your intensity. The other factor, which we get out on the open road, but not here so much, is the undulation of the road impacts all of this, right? So we need to choose gears based on if we're going downhill, flat, or uphill. And the same gear that you would choose riding flat, that gear becomes harder as the road goes up, which is why we have all these gears that make cycling easier so we can go up hills. Okay? So we're going to have a 9-minute warm-up, and then we're going to do 4 sets of 30 seconds with high cadence. So if you haven't already, go ahead and switch to 1 or 2 gears harder so you can just start ramping up the intensity of your warm-up. And then if you don't have cadence, a good thing to do would be to look at your watch and just count 1 pedal stroke. And you want to get up to like 90. So if you count at the bottom or the top of your pedal stroke, either one, look at your clock and count it. You count it for 20 seconds and then multiply by 3. So I'm going to give it a try right now. Yeah, so I'm right at like 28, which is, if I multiply by 3, that would be like 84. So you can do that. That's a way inside, especially you can also count your pedal strokes for 30 seconds and then double it. That might be easier. Where are we at here? So after we do 4 sets, 30 seconds high cadence, the main workout is going to be 4 sets. We're going to do 1-minute blocks where we do ride in the gear, change gears for 1 minute, change gears for 1 minute, change gears for 1 minute. So we're going to do 4 gears, so 3 changes. And then we're going to do a 1.5 minute recovery in an easy gear. However, especially the first one, because we're going to do it in the small chain ring, half of that is going to be kind of on the easier side. And then even in the last 3, when we start in the big chain ring, depending on which gear you start in, will determine which gear you end up in. So you can make it as hard or as easy as you want to. So we have another 1 minute and 10 seconds for the warm up. Go ahead and switch to a harder gear if you haven't already. There's something in my setup making a noise that's driving me crazy that I haven't heard before. So I'll try not to be too distracted by it. So we're going in. So go ahead and figure out what gear you want to be in to do your 30 seconds high cadence. And even if you don't have cadence on your bike, you should definitely feel a change in your legs. Just make them go faster. Okay, here we go. If you have cadence, of course, look at that. I have noticed that my cadence is almost seems a little lower inside than outside. All right, and 30 seconds easy spin. One down. You can do this in a big chain ring also, just in an easier gear. Okay, we're going at 3, 2, 1, 30 seconds. And relax. 2 down. Okay. There's a concept called cross gearing, and I see it. A lot of people make this mistake, and it's because they are uncomfortable switching from the big chain ring to the small chain ring. If you're in the small chain ring right now, you look down at your gears. You don't really ever want to be in the small chain ring and your outside 2 gears on your back wheel. That's called cross gearing. Same thing. Here we go. 30 seconds. I'll pick up on that. Now, so same thing, like right now, I'm in the big chain ring. So if I'm in the big chain ring in the front, I don't want to be in the inside 2 gears in the back, because that's cross gearing there as well. It puts a lot of stress on the chain. And so if I need to use those last 2 gears and I'm in the big chain ring, what I need to do is I need to shift to the small chain ring, and then that's going to, okay, relax. That's going to necessitate, when I shift to the small chain ring, my legs will go too fast. So I either have to before or after shift the back derailleur to some harder gears, because that jump in the chain ring is in the chain rings is a big jump. It's like, changing 3 gears at once. So just in general, if you're in the big chain ring, stay out of the 2 gears that are closest to your spokes. If you're in the small chain ring, stay out of the 2 gears that are closest to the outside. Okay, here we go. Last one, 30 seconds. Okay, and relax. Okay, so everyone get in the small chain ring, and then shift your bike all the way down to where there's 2 gears that you haven't shifted into on the outside. Okay, so if you look down, you can easily see 1 cog, 1 gear, and then the other one is right next to the chain. So it's a little bit harder to see. Now what I want you to do is shift 3 times easier. So 1, 2, 3. Okay. So that is where we're going to begin, and we're going to end up in that 3rd gear. Okay, so here we go. To me, this feels really easy. Hopefully, it feels the same way to you. Let's go for a minute, and then pick a cadence that you can maintain. So if you're looking at, let's say you have cadence or average cadence, because right now it'd be really easy to spin at a higher cadence. But I don't want you to do that. I want you to pick 90 or 85. If you don't have cadence on your bike, I want you to just go by feel, or you can count it. So we're 30 seconds in. So right now, like for me, this is below aerobic. This is like warm up or cool down. And I'm spinning at a cadence of 89 average. And I don't have speed on my computer, so I can't see it. I can see my watts and my heart rate. But if you have speed, what you'll notice is if you keep your cadence the same, on the next gear change, your speed will go up. There we go. One gear change, harder. So moving that chain outside in the back rear wheel, you can definitely see how, and this is true too, like the first thing I noticed when I changed gears is that my cadence wants to slow down. So we have to work to keep our cadence up. So if you have cadence, get it back up to what it was. I can definitely see my power go up. I can see my heart rate go up a little bit. I can feel I can feel more resistance in my legs. This also, for me, still feels like a warm up here. Okay, we're going 3, 2, 1. 1 minute, one gear harder. So push that chain out to the right. We're still in the small chain ring. Again, you can feel the cadence drop. Okay, so how this feels right now, if you're on a flat road, this feels kind of aerobic. And this is, if you're in the small chain ring, where it's cool to ride. Now, if you want to go faster, you have one more gear, and then you have the 2 you shouldn't use in the small chain ring. So if you want to go faster out on the road, what I would do is switch to an easier gear in the back, like 2 or 3 gears, and then right away, big chain ring, because that would be the equivalent. And then I could use the big chain ring to go faster. Okay, so we have one more gear to go. We're going in 10 seconds. Again, I've seen my heart rate, my power go up. Okay, here we go, last one. 1 minute. Switch. Okay, so now we're in really what should be our last gear in the small chain ring, even though we still have 2 gears left on the bike. The small chain ring, we want to stay out of those. So pay attention to that feeling in your legs. I can definitely feel my cadence wants to slow down. So this is a spot that I would ride definitely aerobically in. But I could also find the same gear in the bigger chain ring. And then you'll notice if your cadence drops, your speed will probably stay the same as it was in the previous gear. All right, 4 more seconds. Okay, nice job, easy work. 1.5 minutes easy. So now you're gonna switch to an easier gear. You'll notice how much easier it is to spin your legs. So when you're doing recovery work on the bike, like the gear that you're in now is a great early warm up, cool down, recovery gear. You're finding hopefully that you're easily spinning at 90, maybe higher. There's very little resistance in the pedals. Your perceived exertion is pretty low. You know, your heart rate comes down, the breathing comes down. It's easier to talk. Okay, we got 30 seconds before we go. So now what I want you to do is I want you to get in the big chain ring, and I want you to get into the gear in the back that still leaves 2 gears to the left side of your chain when you look back. Again, the one gear is going to be very easy to see. The other gear is right next to the chain. If you're having a hard time seeing, go all the way to the gear we don't want to ride in, and then click down 1, 2, right? So now you know you're in that gear where you still have 2 gears. So this is where we're going to start. We're going to start here with a minute. Here we go. So get your cadence up. And you should see that this gear, to me, feels a little bit easier than the small chain ring and that gear we ended up in, which is 3 gears up, right? So to me, this gear here, even though I'm in the big chain ring, feels easier. So this is what I mean when you switch from the small to the big or the big to the small. There's an equivalent gear because you generally should be switching chain rings in the middle of your gear set. So you want to sort of get to the middle of the gear set, switch big chain ring, small chain ring, right? That's the smoother way to make that transition. And if you've ever dropped a chain, a lot of that times is because you're just going, changing the front one down without changing the back. Okay, so we're going to go, right now, let's go 1 gear harder. Keep the cadence up. So to me, this feels kind of equivalent of where we ended up last time. It's definitely a little bit harder. Takes a little more focus to get my cadence back up. But if I want to go faster, this is where I do it. I do it by keeping my cadence up and shifting to harder gear. And you can see, effort-wise, like it's starting to get maybe a little bit move into that slightly uncomfortable zone. So from a perceived exertion standpoint, if you're doing the workout on the road and you say, I want to do, 5 minutes, maybe right below race pace, this is probably the gear. And again, the incline, decline of the road is going to change all this. But okay, here we go. 1 more gear change. Number 3. Okay, now for me, on a flat road, I'm definitely starting to get into, that uncomfortable or moderately hard. So for me right now on a flat road, this is kind of like my half Ironman race pace effort. I could ride quite a while in this gear on a flat road, keeping my cadence up. Okay, we got 1 more change, and you'll notice, depending if you have 10 or 11 gears on your bike, there's still quite a bit of room in the back. So the next 2 times, we'll start in a harder gear. Here we go. Last minute. Now I'm really working to keep my cadence up. And when I do keep my cadence up, I can tell by my power, now I'm like 80% of my STP, which is, solidly half Ironman, kind of right below my Olympic distance pace effort. It's definitely getting harder. You can tell on the way that I am not talking as easy. Three seconds. Okay, 3 shifts easier. Go back to where we started. Okay, now we have 2 more sets of 4 minutes. So the question you have to ask yourself is, do I want to repeat that in terms of its intensity, or do I want to go a little harder? If you want to go harder, all you have to do is start in 1 gear harder. So this is where we started last time. We still have, is it a minute? No. We still have a minute. Forgot to hit my lap button, but we still have a minute. So before we start, I'm going to go one gear harder, and that way I'm going to get into those harder gears sooner. So the first minute is going to be harder than the first minute last time, which is going to make every successive minute harder. Okay, and so at the end, I'm going to be working pretty hard. And then on the fourth one, you have the option of going one gear harder again. Okay, so we got like 10 seconds. So if you want to start in one gear harder, go ahead and shift there now. So this is going to be kind of more of like a true work set. Here we go. In terms of, of the first 8 minutes of work, probably 6 of them are pretty easy. Try to keep the cadence up. I'm sure you notice, like I do, that it takes more concentration. That's another part of perceived exertion. Your breathing rate, your lungs, the resistance in your legs, how much concentration it takes, how much you can talk. Those are all ways to help you identify perceived exertion. Okay, we're going on 5. Ready, here we go. Go. One gear harder. You can definitely tell it's more of a challenge to keep my legs spinning over. They naturally want to slow down. So if I'm out on the road and I make this change and my cadence drops to 80, I would say that's not as efficient. So I should go back to the easier gear and ride with my cadence at 90. And then if I want to go faster, I got to keep my cadence up while I switch gears. Okay, that's 2 minutes. We have 15 seconds. So already, because we started in a harder gear, I can definitely tell I'm more challenged in this step. We're going 2, 1. Okay, one gear harder. Now I'm starting to get into a lot of those efforts that we've typically done on a Monday. So for me, using power, if you have power, you'll notice this too. If I let my cadence drop, my power will drop, just like speed. But if I want to really get into those power numbers, then I got to keep my cadence up in these harder gears. We got one more change coming in 10 seconds. Ready, here we go. Go. One gear change. So for my bike, because I have 11 speed, so on a 10 speed, you might only have 3 gears remaining, 2 of which, well, actually in the big chain ring, so you can go all the way down. So you have 3 to 4 gears still to go. So if you wanted to, you could repeat this like another 2 times on top of our 4 sets. So you ended up in your hardest gear. Now these really, like the hardest gear, isn't necessarily meant for riding on a flat road. It's meant to give you more speed and power going downhill. All right, 1.5 minutes easy. So maybe like 4 shifts easy. So those, on really strong people, On a flat road, you can get into that fastest, hardest gear. For most of us, though, you'll use that gear going downhill. Unless you have an awesome tailwind. And it doesn't have to be a steep downhill. Sometimes it's just enough of a grade, you know, in your legs. You don't feel the tension in your legs, but you want to go really fast. So to get that tension in your legs, you just get into that hardest gear. Big chain ring, smallest gear in the back. See? Starting to sweat. So we got 30 seconds left. We got one more set. So you have to ask yourself, did that feel appropriate? Do I want to push myself harder? So switch to the gear you started in last time, which should be, I don't know which one. 3 gears showing. And then if you want to go, I'm going to start in 1 gear harder than that. So I have 4 gears on 11 gear bike showing. Okay, ready? Here we go. 1 minute. So I chose 1 gear harder because while that one did feel pretty appropriate, I was going to push myself 1 more time. So now I can tell you that these 4 minutes are going to be a solid 4 minutes of work for me. Also a challenge to keep my cadence going in like 3, 2, 1. Here we go. 1 gear harder. So sometimes I stand up like that just to get my cadence up. Then when you sit down, it's a little bit easier to have more power in the pedals. Think about your pedal stroke, pulling at the bottom, going over the top. All right, we're going in 5 seconds. Here we go. Change gears. Woo. Oh. So for me, my cadence is lower than I want it to be. So out on the road, I would get out of this gear. But for inside, I'm just going to stick with it. Use it as kind of like a leg strengthening. The cadence is 80 in that gear. Changing gears in 3, 2, 1. Here we go. Woo. So if you want to, on a trainer, as a way of simulating hill climbing, these would be the gears you use, right? You can't change the grade, but if we get into a gear like this, a cadence is 75, more representative of climbing hills outside. Ten seconds. 3, 2. All right, recover. So if you want, you can recover in the small chain ring. We're going to do a little, what they call it, improper gear changing in the cool down. So just to show you how when you switch big chain ring, small chain ring, you need to make an adjustment in the back. So the metaphor I like to use is like a microscope. You have your gross adjustment in the front and you have your fine adjustment in the back. When you change that gross adjustment, you need to fine tune the back. So another 45 seconds. Then we'll do a 5-minute cool down. And in the cool down, we'll do some big chain ring, small chain ring switches. And we'll work on smoothing those out. Okay, so everybody get into the middle of your quad set, middle of your gears in the back. If you look down, you should see roughly an equal number of gears on the left side of your chain as on the right side of your chain. Okay, I'm gonna start my clock. 5 minutes. So, small chain ring, your cadence should definitely be at 90, shouldn't have too much resistance in your legs. Now, let's say you want to go a little faster. Naturally, you're just going to shift the right side, like 1, 2 gears, maybe 3, depending on where you're at, harder, even though you still have those last 2 gears left, which is what, as a beginner, you want to just keep going to until you run out of gears. Instead, you want to change the big chain ring. So, without changing our right side, just change to the big chain ring. And you see that's a big jump. You feel it in your legs, right? Without changing anything on your right side, that's a big change. And I go back to the small chain ring. Again, big change. But okay, keep riding as you are. Watch my legs. Okay. Look at my knees. This is me in the big chain ring. And then watch this, what happens to my legs. See that big jump? You can feel that jerkiness, right, when you go down. So the better way to do this, so we're in the small chain ring now, and if we go on the left side of the big chain ring, it's going to be that big jump, right? So let's do this. On the right side, let's go 2 gears easier, and then as soon as those are done, almost right away, right on top of each other. On your right side, go into the big chain ring. Okay, ready? So go 1, 2 gears easier, big chain ring. And now you can see that that's not as much of a jump as only switching the big chain ring. Okay, so now here we are in the big chain ring. So let's go 2 gears harder. Now that puts us back to where we were if we would have just switched chain rings. Okay. So now before I go into the small chain ring, and then I get that huge jump in my legs, I'm actually going to go 2 gears harder right now, because that way when I change the small chain ring, it won't be such a jump. So right side's going to go 1, 2 harder, and then quick on the left. Ready? Here we go. 1, 2. Gets hard. Boom. Small chain ring. And now you can see that that jump was pretty easy. Okay, so now let's go 2 gears easier. And we're in that kind of high cadence. Okay, so typically I'll shift the back before I shift the front, but sometimes I'll shift the front first and then the back follows, right? Either way, both are really happening in concert with the other. So now we're in the small chain ring, your legs are going pretty fast. If I go to the big chain ring, I know it's going to get hard. But if I go to the big chain ring and then go 2-3 clicks easier on the right, it'll even that out. So ready? So let's do it. Big chain ring. And then right away, 1, 2, 3 gears easier. And you can see how that makes it less of a jump overall, that first initial. But now we're kind of, to me, it really feels kind of like close to the same gear. Maybe a little harder. Okay, so let's go back down 2 clicks harder. Maybe 3, depending on how many you did. Doesn't really matter because you're in the middle of that concept. Okay, so now let's do big chain ring, the small chain ring, so we're going to right side, and then we're going to go 2 gears harder on the right. Okay, ready? Small chain ring, shift, 1, 2. You know, that smoothed it out. So that's how you want to do it. And that's one thing that I see when I'm out coaching is that people don't make those changes in concert. They just do the big chain ring without either adjusting first in the small or immediately after in the small. I'll tell you, my preference is typically to do the back first. So here we are in this easier gear. So switch 2 gears harder. Now, if I want to go in the big chain ring right now, I go 1, 2 on the right, big chain ring. And then to me, that's a little bit smoother process of adjusting the back first. But sometimes, you know, I adjust the first out on the road. But for me right now, it's a little bit more automatic. But you may need to think about it more initially when you're not used to it. All right, 10 seconds. Any questions? Just joking, kind of. But if you do have questions, let me know. Send me an email. Put them in the comments on the video. All right, there we go. I snuck in a minute in on you guys, so 41 minutes. Have a great day. Thanks for riding with me. Hopefully you learned something about changing gears and the intensity and speed, cadence, all that. See you on Wednesday, 7 o'clock.